Hi folks, welcome to this video on commercialisation, the commercialisation of sport. We're going to link the Golden Triangle into a little bit of this, but if you really want to know about the Golden Triangle, there's a video to do with globalisation, which is mainly linked in with that one, but I am going to touch on it towards the end. What would make sense first is if we looked at what does commercialisation actually mean? Well, essentially, what commercialisation means is that money can now be made out of this thing. So the commercialisation of sport is making money out of sport. Now, what again do we mean by that? Well, if we look at all the various things, sport is now seen, particularly in this century, the 21st century, as a commodity. So sports and sports stars can be sold, not literally, but they can be sold to different companies, media outlets, channels, things like that. So, for example, the English Premier League is sold to Sky and BT Sports, and they have the rights to show their games. As an example, if you look at Manchester United, old picture of Rooney here, but Adidas, Chevrolet, the Manchester United sell the brand Manchester United to Adidas and Chevrolet and Adidas in turn hope to make money and always do make money off being associated with a brand as famous as Manchester United. So the commercialisation of sport is turning sport into a commodity, something that can be effectively sold so that brands, companies, etc., can make money off the back of being associated with them. So the next question is, what makes sport commercial, or why has sport become so commercial? Why has it become a commodity from which people and businesses and brands can earn money from? Well, the fact that we've got increased media coverage, it's everywhere. So when people are watching, for example, Wayne Rooney, they're seeing that company and that company. So you're seeing these brands due to the media coverage. Greater ability to travel. Now that's performers and spectators. So we can now view more sport. If we can view more sport, we can view more of these brands and more of these companies more. And more people that view your company and brand, the more sales you make. So it's a money spinner. Greater levels of advertising. You've got kit sponsors. You've got stadium sponsors now in sport. You've got player sponsors. For example, if you look at rugby in rugby league, you've got companies who sponsor the top, the sleeves, and the shorts. So you've got multiple sponsors sometimes. In one area, you've still got billboards all the way around the sports pitches and things like that. And you've also got, with that sponsorship money comes in, that money can then be used by the teams to upskill, buy better players, buy better managers. That makes you more successful, and that makes your brand appear on TV more. So that makes your company need to pay you more money to keep you loyal. So it starts to spin, and this is where the Golden Triangle comes in that we're going to look at in a few minutes. You've also got designated sports media channels. So you've got Sky Sports. Okay, if you look on BBC 24, every hour or so you have 15 or half hour catch up on purely on sport. But you've also got 5 Live, so radio channels, things like that. The sport has become this massive global industry, and that's what allows companies and businesses to associate with players and teams, and that's where the money starts to come in. Just one thing I want to expand on a little bit, because it can sometimes come up for a question in its own right, is the media, because obviously the media has been the catalyst for this. This is the thing that's really turned sport into a commodity. If you see something on TV a lot, you want to buy into it as a company and a sponsor. You want to associate with that. So what's prompted this big change? The fact that changes to the type of media in the last 20 years. We've gone from largely radio and newspapers. Now, obviously, they still exist and they're still a big part of the media. But we've gone from mainly that in the last 20 years to internet and social media. I mean, I'm not that ancient, but I remember going to watch Hull City, my team, and watching them play, and then trying to get the radio station in the car on the way home, and then trying to figure out where we were in the table after that, usually at the bottom. But now I can watch Hull City, and I can go on a website, I can go on BBC Sport and see the league table as it stands. I can get live updates from other games as they're going on. That never used to happen 20, 30 years ago. We've got designated sports channels, as I previously mentioned, 5 Live, Sky Sports, BT Sport, where it's nothing but sport. You get a big variety of sport in there. We've got the rise of pay-per-view and subscriptions. Now that's how these TV companies make money. They pay the Premier League to show the Premier League games, but then they sell that to people and say, you've got to pay X amount a month to watch these Premier League games. Or they pay millions to show Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder 2, and then they sell it as pay-per-view and make millions more back on it. So that's how these companies make a lot of money. There's also, thankfully, less sexist media coverage these days. We get greater gender representation. Certainly not equal, not by a long stretch, but it is better than it was 20 years ago. We've got more sports being shown, so you can watch a greater variety of sports, including disability sports, so things like the Paralympics. Again, it's not on equal level yet, but it's getting there. It's become more equal than it was 20 years ago. As a result of all this, the media is turning sports stars into celebrities. And if you're a celebrity, again, companies and brands will want to associate with you. I think back to Virgin Media. 5, 6, 7 years ago, no one knew what Virgin Media was. Why would I have Virgin Media when I've got all these other media companies? Then they get Usain Bolt to advertise Virgin Media. Now, Virgin Media is one of the leading providers of internet, broadband, things like that. It's off the back of that company associating with a well-known celebrity. And because of the media coverage, we've now got more global sports seen domestically. So we can watch the NFL, we can watch the Indian Premier League, we can watch the Aussie Big Bash, we can watch the NBA. So, the sport is now massive, and it's been the media that's been the big catalyst of all of this. Now, the questions that usually come up on this are often discuss, analyse, evaluate. So again, largely mean the same thing. Give us pros, give us cons. Now, commercialisation, media, sponsorship, all this has had positive and negative effects. It's not all been, more money, so that's absolutely fantastic. There's been negative itself. So what they usually get you to do is they usually want you to analyse, discuss, evaluate the impact of the sport on a few things. The first one we're going to look at is the sport. So let's, for example, think about the sport of football. Discuss, analyse, evaluate the impact of the media and commercialisation on the sport itself. So the media, commercialisation, money, branding, logoing raises the profile of the sport because you're on TV more. So that makes your sport more commercial. People want to watch football more because they see it on TV a lot. They therefore want to participate in it more. They want to buy kits and equipment. Provides an increased level of funding to improve resources, coaching or facilities. So if you're on TV more, like football is, you get more money from TV companies, from your sponsors, and that money can be reinvested into your sport, into your club, into your performers. It gives you financial security over a period of time. You know that you've got X number of millions coming in off the back of these deals. That's great to know going forward. As a result, your sport can attract the best players in the world. That's what the Premier League did in football. It attracted the best players in the world, the likes of Dennis Bergkamp coming over, Gianfranco Zola, people like that. That was unheard of, 20 years ago for the English domestic football league to be attracting the best players in the world, but it happened. However, there's going to be downsides to it as well. Commercialization and media tends to support popular sports like football. What if you are British basketball? You are never going to be on TV because your NBA is on TV instead. So the sport of basketball in Britain is going to suffer as a result of that. Changes to the sport format. So, for example, rules are enforced onto you. So let's come away from football. Let's look at cricket. Now, I think 2020 cricket has been fantastic for the sport of cricket worldwide. It's made it fast-paced, it's made it energetic, it's opened it up to a wider audience. But there are those purists who like 5-day test match cricket. Well, the media has changed your sport forever. It has enforced rules onto your sport that you didn't want. But that's what happens when you sell your sport to TV companies. Sometimes rule changes, formats are enforced onto you. The influence of the TV has caused an increase in adverts and breaks in the game. Or let's go to a word from our sponsor, things like that, and people don't like that. So this idea of it all being great, we've got to balance it off with the negative effects as well. So next is to discuss, analyse, evaluate the impact of the media commercialisation. I've added it this time on the players and performers. So let's just give them a highlight to make sure that we're keeping our attention on what we need to do. What is the impact of this on the players and the performers, good and bad? So the advantages to the player and the performer is allows you to earn income. Sport is now your full-time job. You don't have to work part-time or anything like that. You can afford to earn money from sponsorship deals, from endorsements, to train full-time. You can train full-time. That increases your chances of remaining successful as well. You get maximum exposure to to promote the personal brand, which is absolutely key in some sports. For many performers, your name is your brand. Look at Tiger Woods. He's got his own brand of golf gear associated with Nike as an example of that. So the more you're on TV, the more you can expose your brand to everybody. It can lead to additional roles. It can lead to additional roles in sport. So and a career to go either alongside your playing career or to take place after your playing career as a pundit, something like that. And the big thing is it relieves financial worries for the rest of your life if you can earn lots of money off the back of being successful. The main disadvantages are, because you earn off sport, the pressure to win and remain at the top is really, really high. That can increase the likelihood of deviant behaviour, e.g. drug taking to stay at the top, cheating to stay at the top. And obviously that's not good for you and it's not good for the sport. The downside is, as it stands right now, media commercialisation generally favours male over female and able-bodied over disabled performers, which isn't right, it isn't fair, but it is the males that get the high sponsorship deals and it is the able-bodied that get the high sponsorship deals, which is far from right, but that's the way it is at this moment in time. Sponsorship might be short-term, so if you're successful, everyone wants to sponsor you. If you're unsuccessful or you have a bad season, those sponsorship deals can literally fall away, which isn't good as well. So it's very unstable. Performers may have to advertise the products they do not like. I think I'm right in saying Rory McIlroy signed a $150 million deal with Nike to use Nike golf clubs for the next 10 years. Well, his performance went down the pan for the first 2 or 3 years of that because he couldn't get used to using Nike golf clubs. So you're forced to use a brand that doesn't fit with you in the way that you play. So that's not good for you, the performer. And your performers might be contracted to put in appearances and attend public speaking. So you've just played a 5-hour-long match at Wimbledon. You're exhausted. You've got a game to play the next day. First thing you've got to go do is go do press interviews and media. When actually what you want to do is go get an ice bath, a massage, go eat, go have something to drink to make sure you're ready for tomorrow. So you're forced to make press appearances when you don't really want to make them. So it's not all positive for the performers either. So the next one is discuss, analyse, evaluate the impact of the media or commercialisation on, largely speaking, about us, the spectators, those who watch sport and those who are passionate about it. So the advantages are, through having lots of commercialisation media, wide choice of sports available to watch. There aren't many sports that you can't watch on some platform or another. Even on YouTube and things like that, they're starting to stream sporting events. The viewing experience, that should say, has been enhanced due to investment in technology and audience participation, slow motion cameras, replays, live action replays. In rugby union, the ref cam, so you can actually view a camera that's mounted to the chest of the referee and you can see what's going on at the scrum. You can listen to them with the microphones in terms of their decision making, how they're talking to the players. So it all adds to the experience for us, the spectators. Also, I should add to that, that should be on this side, the standard has been increased. So we can now watch better performers play due to the investment in sport. That raises the standard and it makes it more entertaining to us, the spectators. So apologies, that should be on that side. I forgot to add that one. Disadvantages, it encourages spectating, not participating, which isn't great. Remember, we've seen a gradual decline in participation in the UK every year since 2012. The 2012 Olympics, sport was everywhere. Loads of us took part in sport regularly that year. every year since then, there's been a slight decline in sports participation because we get used to watching it, not taking part in it, which isn't great. It can become very expensive for fans and spectators. These modern stadia, comfy seats, big, massive screens to watch live replays, well, that gets passed on with ticket costs, increased merchandise sales. I remember when football shirts were £30 and people were going, that is absolutely obscene, it's disgusting. I don't think you can get one for less than 60 quid now. So it's doubled in the last 15 years. So, it's all great, this money and sponsorship and commercialisation, but it's very often the cost is passed down to us, the spectator. It can affect our viewing experience due to TV breaks and timeouts. So I've had that in terms of negative for the sport. It's also negative for us, the spectator. And, we might not want our team to be associated with a particular brand. So, for example, Wonga was a payday loan company, which wasn't, very particularly good for people who were getting into debt by using these. And they were sponsoring, I think it was Newcastle was sponsored for a time and West Ham was sponsored for a time. So we can get our company, our sport, our team sponsored by a brand that we don't think is ethical and we don't think is good. So the final one then is discuss, analyse, evaluate the impact of the media commercialisation on society. Now that might be, and we're just doing that with the spectators. Obviously, spectators make up part of society and vice versa, but not everyone in society spectates or watches a particular sport at a set time. So this is society in general. So sport, spectating sport, watching sport brings together society. People going to the pub or going around to people's houses for barbecues when a World Cup is on, something like that. Watching events in the Olympics all together. So it brings society together, which is really important. We can get positive role models that influence positive behaviour in children in particular, but also in adults. So having those good, clean, healthy, active people can inspire people to want to do the same. And it gives people an outlet from everyday life and stresses. You've had a bad day at work, at school, at college, whatever it is, but so-and-so's playing tonight. Oh, good, I'm looking forward to that. So it can allow you to de-stress watching sport, which is really, really important. Mental health's huge on the agenda, as it should be right now. And sport can play a very big part in improving people's mental health. However, there's also disadvantages. So just as you can get positive role models, you can also see deviancy, cheating, drug taking, violence, match fixing. These are all negative things, and these can have a negative impact on society. It can increase, kids being violent, kids shouting and swearing at referees, playing Saturday football because they've seen their role models do it on TV. It's not right. It can detract from more pressing matters in society. So we've got homelessness issues, we've got strain on the NHS, but we're spending and we're seeing billions and millions being spent on sport globally. It's not really right. It's not really fair. It's not equal division of the money in society. And like you just said there, the negative role models having a negative impact on society as well. Those two pretty much go hand in hand, that deviancy and the negative role models impact. But, the main one here is, I'd say a good example there is shouting, swear. Sorry, a good one there is drug taking, drug taking, violence in sport that reflects badly on society. This one is probably your better example, is swearing at referees and seeing young kids do that and question referees and things like that. So there's a better division of those. So they're all the ones that you could be asked to discuss, analyse and evaluate. The final thing, just to quickly touch upon, is this. This is this golden triangle that I mentioned earlier on. Now, the point is, you've got the sport here and you've got media coverage. If your sport is shown on TV a lot, this benefits the sport and it benefits the media company. Why? Well, sponsors, companies, brands will want to associate with a sport that is seen on TV all the time. So the media company, Sky Sports, for example, pays football a lot of money, hundreds of millions of pounds, to have the rights to the Premier League. The sport of football can then use that money to buy better, to distribute amongst the teams, to get better players, to get, bring in better managers, etc., etc. Because that media company has the rights to show that sport, they can then sell subscriptions, pay-per-view, and they can attract an audience. Because that sport is now on TV a lot, the sponsors will want to sponsor it. The sponsors pay the media company for the rights to associate with them, and they pay the sport for the right to associate with teams, with players, with performers. The sponsors then make a lot of sales off the back of the fact that they are associated with that brand and they are seen on TV a lot. So this golden triangle is now in place because one of these can now not exist without the other. If you take one out, the whole thing falls apart. Now, I have done more on this in the video to do with globalization of sport, but that's just a little touching base on it to make sure you are happy with what the golden triangle is. So this video has been about commercialization in sport. Hope you found it useful, folks.